they're not worth mentioning. Oh, there's more? Oh, the trucker. What was this working for? Oh, fuck no. Alright, so what the fuck are we doing? I'm nervous. I don't like this. You said they, so it's 1-on-1? Fuck. Oh boy, here we go. City in the left side of the snow area where your cursor is right now, just north. I don't know where the fucking cursor is at. Oh, right here. I don't have any. Wait, I don't have any sheets over there. Go there. Okay, what is that? Number 1? Perfect. Is that 1 or 4? That is 4. Huh. I don't have any sheets over there? Oh, yeah, I did a Missouri Grace. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is the frickin' foggy area. God frickin' damn it. Ah, son of a beach. I hate this frickin' stupid ass frickin' place. I'm frickin' going straight, John. Go fuck. Yeah, fuck you, beach. There's no freaking shot I missed every single verse. Well, I mean, obviously I did, but what the fuck? Fuck you, beach. You like puzzles? How long do you take? Oh, there's freaking puzzles in this sheet. No, I'm not prepared for this. Is that death? Okay. Fuck you, beach. Ow. How was the weekend? Honestly, it was pretty good. Freaking chilled all day. Didn't really do much. Oh, yeah, this little spot. Wait, did I actually see this castle last stream? I don't think I did. Oh, what's that? What's that? Oh. I paid 1.4k for my dog today. Say what? Holy shit. I'm not gonna operation where they remove some tumors today. Holy shit, my guy. 1.2 grand? She's overnight, so tomorrow I see how she's doing. Is there someone in this town? You should find it. I bet. Holy shit, homie. Are these homies, boss ready? Oh, you like that sheet? Like that sheet? Didn't you when you actually here? Am I nice or not? Am I gonna make you fully suffer? God. I don't want to freaking talk to you anyways. Fuck you, beach. I like how you had to think about it. God damn it. Okay, what the frick is this? What is that sheet? I'm freaking nervous. I'm about to start throwing, to be honest. The one that you can see. Is it freaking invisible? Of course. Is that a... Oh. I was about to say, I hear something. I didn't see that sheet. No, I actually, look. At my point of view, no, I'm about to go up here and show your ass. Alright, look right here. You can barely see it, alright? I didn't want to hear it. All I heard was the sound. Enough angle. Hey, RJ8617, thanks for the follow, homie. I'm gonna take a wild guess as far Riley. What's up, Riley? What's up, man? From another angle? I mean, did I go like that? Okay, you know, we're not gonna talk about it, alright? Fuck up. Dude, my freaking chair is so goddamn broken. Holy shit. Alright. Wait, how old is your dog? Did you ever tell me that sheet? 1.4 because Germany is such a nice country. I mean, is that a lot for you? Like, I don't know how economy is over there. Is that like a big ass chunk of cash, or is that just like whatever? Yes, very. Oof. I'm gonna take a wild guess that over there looks important. Okay, I can make that. All right. Hold on. God. Oh, you ain't never seen these freaking moves. Let me check up here real quick. Oh, wrong button. Okay, this is fucking 100% not fucking worth it. I can survive that, right? No. Fuck that stupid ass ladder. Give me your sheet. Oh, I've always wanted that. Do I want to do this right now? Would you consider this a statue? Probably not, right? Hey, what's up, Mr. Savage? What's up, man? Statue is down the stairs and right? Okay, fucking say less. Oh, I see that sheet. What's up, Mr. Savage? Oh, this is a freaking statue? Like the four figures? Oh. I ain't doing that sheet. Better kick some ass, boy. You done the worst time. That doesn't happen in my streams, right? You gotta. Wait, wait. It said light 4. I had to fight 4 freaking punks? I watched this sheet. Oh. Oh, hey, yo, this is sick. Oh, shit. Hey, yo, this is freaking sick. What the fuck? Oh, this is the same. Oh. Never mind. Wait, that looks different, right? No, I'm no cap. Okay, I'm freaking dumb, dude. They're all on top of houses? Okay, so let's... I think I just played myself out. Seat. Where the fuck are those stupid ass stairs at? You know what? I'm going down here. I'm resetting. Oh, after I get this item. If we die, I gotta let him on again. Man, I ain't gonna fucking die. Do you know who you're talking to? I'm gonna die. Oh, okay. Okay. I love that. Alright. That's cool. Love that. Love that. Am I really having troubles finding the stupid ass stairs? Beach. Oh, alright. Okay. So is this the point where you said the part where I suffer? What is this sheet? Alright, let me make sure. Grip the torch of Sentinels. Oh shit, is this the thing you wanted to get last time that you were like, oh, we'll need this later or some shit? Which one was it? Sentry Torch? Beach. Oh. Ah. Oh. Oh. I think they only get pissed when I go on the thing. Oh. I knew that. I thought this was different. Okay, we're not gonna talk about it, we're not gonna talk about it, we're not gonna talk about it. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forgot which way I went. It was still left, right? I went like up here or some shit. I'm not gonna lie to you, I kind of forgot where I went. I'm gonna keep it real with you here. I don't know how I forgot, but I did. Okay, I know where I'm at now. And I can see these fat punks. Alright, where's that stupid ass frickin' ladder? I make that sheet? $20 does I make this? No shot gets them at this point. Like, bro, when it comes to finding shit. Oh shit, I actually made that? Ow! Why does everything hurt in this damn place? What the fuck? Huh? Ow. Fucking killing this bitch. Okay, maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not. You. Ow! Why do these guys hurt so much? You know what? Nah, that's cool. That's cool. No, that's cool. That's cool. I forgot to get my souls. How many souls did I just lose? Okay. These guys not someone to mess with. Okay, that's cool. I understand now. This is a shortcut, right? When, I mean, now that I know that they hurt a lot, you know, I'll have a different approach here. I really don't understand how I keep forgetting which way I'm going, by the way. It's really not that hard to get to, but I somehow forget every time. This is really, this is kind of embarrassing. Where was that thing at again? Okay, no, it's right here. Okay, no, I got it. Okay, I can't go from here? No, I knew that. Oh, shit, is my freaking sound not working? Oh, son of a bitch. Don't worry. I didn't scam you. Hold on. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Okay, maybe I did scam you. Okay, maybe I did scam you. I don't know why I didn't show up. Wait, did you hear it? Hey, what's up, Chase? I don't think we're getting to this fat beach or skinny beach. I don't know who it is. Cause I freaking suck. I can't even get past this small little freaking bullshit. Cause my freaking dumbass doesn't remember which freaking direction I'm going in. Bro, nothing works. I need to figure out how to make it so like whenever I turn my headset on, my computer doesn't automatically change to that sheet. Because that's what's fucking me up. It changes on my default to my headset when I don't run directly off my headset. I run off my frickin' some other bullshit. I am frickin' taking the longest route to get to this sheet. Jesus fuck. Is there any other route over here? Is this the, this is actually wait, this is the only way, isn't it? Oh yeah, it is. I don't know, I'm not frickin' taking the longest route. Okay, that's the only way to go. Never mind. What if I'm a Diablo? Frickin' away from my ass, beach. This is the best route. Okay, now the problem is, can I even remember that sheet? Alright, so I'm lighting these stupid ass statues, right? I'm lighting 3 of these dumb sheets. And not getting one shot, hopefully. You said they're on top of the frickin' houses. How did I not dodge when I clearly pressed the button to dodge? Okay, how do you gonna tell me how I didn't dodge when I wanted to dodge and you didn't dodge? Oh, I was I was wondering what happened to my sheep. I'm gonna kill these one guys one time just to get the feel of them. I'm starting to think I'm not really a big fan of these guys, not gonna lie. Ow. Okay. Think I type of house is one of the staircase? Oh, I think I remember seeing that sheet. Beach. These motherfuckers give 8,000 and I go slow. Ooh. Oh, that's kind of worth it. That's worth it here. Enter enemies. I mean, dude, 8,000 plus the freaking upgrade. All right, where was that stupid ass ladder? Right here, right? Yeah. How did I get there last time? Alright. So I'll just take the long route. You can light up a thing with it. Oh, shit. Oops. Sorry, I'm taking a detour. I'm taking a really long detour. Jesus Christ, my guy. Holy shit. Oh, these guys give that effect too? Oh, I love this. This is gonna be fun. I'm fucking dead. No, I'm not. Oh, this is gonna be fun. Ha! Oh, this is gonna be fun. They can climb up this sheet, can't they? Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. So I see one over there. I guess I can go the same route I was doing before. So where the first guy was in the stairs is the shiny place? Oh, right there? Okay, so boom and then boom. Okay, I'll do the top one first. Oh, fuck, I might as well just heal the full because this fucking dumb beach is gonna one-shot me. Oh shit, this is where these fucking dumbbells are at. Oh shit, I went to... It's fine, I wanted to go this one first. I wanted to do this one first. It was right here, right? I wanted to reset. Archers are really weak. They die in 2 hits and do nothing in melee. I mean, but getting over to them is frickin' death. Can I do that sheet? I ever told you I'm fucking god at this game? A fucking chair is so goddamn broken. Just use your roll button. Do you know who you're talking to, Biggle? Talking to a god, that's who you're talking to. No, I'm just kidding. All we gotta do is just wait it out. Wait till they run out of arrows, dude. Easy. Watch this. I press the button, yeah. Dude, what? I look away for what? I can't not just run? Nah, you know what? It's cool. This is the Krusty Krab library. To be fair, I did press space, but I wouldn't activate. In my defense. Again, to be fair, I pressed space. Knowing my ass, we should probably just get the one on the frickin' on that one first, because that's gonna be one of the only one that's gonna be a pain in the ass. Oh, except this frickin' dumb beach is gonna be here though. Can I just wait? Am I a frickin' god right now? Yeah! Oh! Okay. Alright, frick, we're going for this one first, because I'm gonna die by these guys a lot, because these guys are frickin' stupid. I'm stressed. Well, actually, this is right here. I might as well just frickin' get this one. Frick it. Oh, what? I thought you told me I had to do it over again? You frickin' lied to me? I'm okay. It's alright. Oh, I didn't mean to heal. I thought I didn't dodge it. Just frick you, bitch. Stupid. Oh yeah, 2 hits, huh? Wait! Ah! Dumb beach. 2 hits my frickin' ass, motherfucker. Maybe a little more. Uh-huh. Well, that's technically all 4 then, right? Wait, didn't you say that sheet resets? Or am I just dumb? Did I already get this one? Are you sure? Because I didn't... Yeah, I mean this one's already lit up. I just did this one last time. And I lit the other one up too. One of which you never even found to begin with. Oh! Yeah, I don't have to relight them, because I didn't relight the other one on top. Last one is all the way to the left. Oh, I think I know. I think I've seen that sheet. Talking about like frickin' way over here? Or like way over here? I meant on the right. Oh. Oh. Blame that on Twitch's delay. Fuck, I'm going this way then. Oh, son of a bitch. No, please, mercy, sir. Mercy, please. Take a wild guesses over here. Has a lot in the back. Oh, shit. How do you just know all this shit? Do you like Google stuff before I start? What the fruit bagel? Every single game you recommend me, you just know everything. What the fuck, my guy? I just use my brain? Damn, dude. Got my ass. Oh shit, I gotta freaking. Oh, it teleports me? One sec. Freaking less work for me, hell yeah. Easy freaking money. That took way too freaking long, Jesus. Alright, can I get rid of this stupid ass torch? I guess it's not stupid, but. What's this? Oh. No need torch, thank God. Alright, where the fuck are we going now? Oh, frick, these are my chuckers again? God fucking damn it. I think I know where the sheets is at. Wait, oh, this is oh, nice. Oh, God. Frick you, beach. Man, where the frick are we at? Frick you, beach, moving the frickin' map, you frickin' nerd. Ow! I'm gonna fall off. Get the frick out of here. Of course you're not dead. Yeah, beach! Frick out of here, dumb beach. Huh? Thank you, sir. We're freaking up here. Wait, this is a place we can go to? What the fuck? Alright. I'm guessing I'm just supposed to make my way towards the middle. Get the frick up. I'm not gonna kill you guys. You guys all freaking suck. Oh, you already know I'm gonna fall off this sheet, my guy. That was not on purpose. I swear that was not on purpose. Swear that was not on purpose. Ah, shit. God damn, my frickin' aerodromes. So, homie, you got my grapple so quick? My grapple so quick? Thanks, man. Fine. There are times to charm. So, homie, how's it going? I'm not gonna lie, I kinda need more guidance, sir. Oh god, okay, no, I'm good. Frick all these items around here, dude. I'm frickin' just. Frick all this sheet. Oh, and we got these little frickin' fat punks as well. Frick you much. I ain't fighting your ass. Frick you, beach. Frick those stupid ass frickin' ants. Frick is that sheet? Oh god. Ah! Get the frick out of here with that sheet. Oh, I forgot. I'm not gonna lie, I thought I was out of his range. I mean, to be fair, I was almost out of his range, just to clarify. Yeah. To be fair, in my defense, I was almost out of his range. So I classify that as a, not my fault. No money today. I make sure to dodge this time. You know it's coming, don't forget to dodge. Don't forget, he's gonna do it again. Good job, sir. Preferably don't get hit by that. Okay, never mind. So I want to make sure I'm not gonna just go and then kill myself. Is this not the way to go? Is this a ladder? Oh, there is a ladder. Haha, I knew that. Oh boy. Okay, just okay. I already got a grace. Let's go. Oh shit! I thought that was a freaking ledge. Jesus Christ! All right. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Never went there. Am I forgot so quick? That's okay. I'm not really person. I'm going to shoot. Fucking dumb beach. This place is freaking cool. I gotta just jump off. Oh, I'm not this stupid. Beach! It's fucking beach. Okay, I'm killing these guys. Shit. Ow. Okay, I'm killing these guys. Oh, the guy fell off. Love that. Do I want the item? Probably not. Am I gonna skip it? Yeah, I'm fucking skipping that bullshit. I mean, I guess. No, I will fucking go for it. Watch this. So, homie, you might forget this so quick? Thanks, my guy. I'm just gonna fucking snipe this real quick. Ooh, I kinda want that. Okay, it was. Okay. You know what? I didn't want my souls anyways. That's cool. You can go ahead and have it. Don't. I technically I got anyways, so. I don't even care about the item. I'm probably never gonna use it. I might though. Fuck, I'm grabbing my souls. Why not? I can get without dying though. You live and you learn, right? That's what Dark Souls games are all about. Why are you over there though? What? Shouldn't you not be over there? Okay, watch this. Here's the plan, right? Here's the plan. Here's the plan. We're gonna backstab him. Okay, I'm joking. We're not gonna do that. It wasn't. I thought he was gonna go for me. All right, never mind. I really appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Good start. Good start. Okay, I'm just dodging. I'm just skipping all these, every single punk here. What the frick is that sheet? Alright, love that. What's up, homie? You mind if I grab it so quick? Do you mind if I grab? Thank you. Ow. Okay, I'm gonna go over here real quick. You guys mind if I go over here real quick? Hey, how's it going, my guy? You mind if I go over here and see what's over here real quick? Okay, an item. Can I get that real quick? Appreciate it, appreciate it. I prefer if you kill me. Fucking stupid ass. Frickin' oh! If it's possible, would you mind getting the fuck out of the way? Thank you very much. There ain't no stupid ass ladder. I mean, I guess you have to get over here like that, but I don't know what just happened, but I ain't looking around. Okay, we're skipping all these dumb punks. What the frick is that? Left or right? Straight? Okay, cool. Frick, I'm going across this. What is this? Grace? Look at me, I'm a freaking god. Let's go. Look at me, freaking speedrunning. I think I know I'm gonna freaking miss the shortcut. I think I missed the shortcut. I'm pretty sure I missed the shortcut. I have a feeling the shortcut's right here. What the frick? Is this the way to go? Am I supposed to go over there? What the frick is that? There's a lot of shit happening. Okay. Oh, which way do I go? Let's you choose. Fuck it, I'll go with the ants. So, homies. This is alright. Oh, I forgot how much it hurt. Oh, I forgot how much it hurts. Oh, you guys want? Okay. Why did I go this way? Why did I go this way? Why am I go? Why did I go that way? That was, I don't know why that was not worth it. Holy shit, how the frick am I alive? I don't know Google Maps. Yes, you are. It's just nothing but these guys? Alright. Be killing on a guy. Frick you, beach. Oh, I missed. Oh, shit, that was lucky as shit. Holy bonkers, Batman. Alright, I don't know how the frick I did that. Ow. Okay, I hear a guy. I don't know if I would care about him, but I hear him. Okay, do I want to go in there? Not really. Okay. I'm going down here right now. Should I have gone up there? No, frick up there. There's so much shit here I'm missing. I can just frickin' smell it, dude. What the frick is this way? Beach! Frick that guy. What did that say to me? Frick that guy, he's not worth it. Dude, there's so much shit here. Oh, I'm dead. I'm okay, where do I want to go? Do I want to go over there? That seems important. Let's go over there. All right. Okay. Seems to be important over there. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forgot to go over there. No, it's this way. This is a shortcut to this place where you just died. You should definitely find it. Let's see this. Any chance to stay on the dial lot? I agree. I gotta fill in the shortcut. Well, I died. Let me check over. Actually, no. Man, I don't know freaking stairs. Alright, how close is it like in this vicinity? Okay, listen. Fucking beach. Someone died, it's pretty obvious. Well, you know me when it comes to being obvious. Oh. That looks pretty obvious. Oh, you like that? Oh, you like? Oh. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have healed this. Oh. Oh, you like that? Oh, okay. You like that shit? Whoo. Now, where the frick is this at? I don't think I've seen this at all since I've been up here. What the frick is this? Is this where... Oh. Oh. Huh. Oh, come. Yeah, it's pretty easy. I'm still gonna forget about it, so you might have to remind me a lot, but I guess I can just activate it now. So I make sure to, you know, use it. Okay, now, do I want to go frickin' left or do I want to go frickin' right? I kind of want to see what's over there. I mean, I already have a frickin' little shortcut, so let's go frickin' peep it out. How much is that? Alright. Okay. Well, these guys frickin' hurt. These guys hurt. A lot. Note to self, not worth fighting any of those guys, because, ow. Second thing, ow. Third thing, ow. You guys got that? Okay, fuck you, dumb beach. I'm getting my sheet. I'm fucking see you later, nerd. dodge my guy? Frick that stupid dumb beach. Oh, well, this doesn't look like a boss place at all. Oh my god, look at that. It's a freaking summoning pool. I wonder what's gonna be over here. Oh, how do you know? Okay, we're doing horse battle. Never mind, I'm not doing horses. Alright, what's up, homie? Anybody kill your ass? Wait, haven't I already... Oh, I killed the freaking ghost person, didn't I? Oh. Oh boy. Haha. Oh, we're gonna be here a while. Oh. Oh, we're gonna be here a while. So you can tell me I can't use my horse? Oh. Haha. Someone was on. Yeah, you probably did. Every time I go for one, the freaking NPC's like, oh, let's go attack him. I gotta remember which attack is which. Oh, I forgot my technique. I don't know if this is really gonna work for that much, but... Huh? I kind of forgot what to do there, not gonna lie. Oh, that's that one freaking spell that we're using. Alright, I'm dead. I'm dead. Oh! Oh god, that was, oh my god, that was not worth it. I got a little greedy and I went for a 4. Oh, yeah, it's not worth it. Now I gotta do this every single time I fight this beat. Okay, no, this time we got it. That was a warm up. I kind of forgot how to fight her. It's been a couple streams. It's nice that I get to re-fight some of the dudes, but then again, it kind of sucks because I kind of forget how to how to kill them with these. Because you know it's been a long, decent, amount of streams. Okay, I gotta get used to all your... That's a very large attack. Alright, I gotta get used to all your attacks again. Is that double? Oh, I forgot it's a large... Oh, it's hot. Okay, that's a little bit quicker than I anticipated. Alright, we're learning. Fuck, my headset's about to die. That's a different attack. Which one is that one? Okay. Oh. Alright. Oh, I knew that was coming too. Oh god, that was greedy. No. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Oh, like that sheet. Whoa. Whoa. How did that reach me? My head's just dying right now. How the frick did that hit me? Fuck this boss, I hate him. Her. Every time I go for an attack, you're always doing your attack. Oh, okay. Ha! Look at that, the same health. Haha. Haha. Ow! We're good. Oh, yeah, we might be here a while. What is wrong with my... Go away? It's not going away? What is... Okay, what the fuck is going We're gonna be a while, Bagel. If this is the requirement for Merlina, yeah. Try to chase it. Wait, you can hear that sheet? Oh, my bad. 1 second. I was joking. That's freaking crying. We have bad news. I put the freaking charger in the wrong way. In 1 second. Freaking dumbass has done this before. Freaking son of a bitch. Get the frick out, you stupid bitch. I wasn't paying attention which way I was putting it in. I freaking put that shit in backwards. Alright, here we go. Get the frick in there and charge my sheet. Alright, thank you, sir. Alright. Okay, alright. Where's my sound? Okay, where's my sound? Oh, what do you know? I probably changed by itself. How much you want to bet it changed that sheet? And now I'm gonna die because I'm not looking at my sheet. Frickin' son of a bitch, that sheet frickin' changed. I frickin' love that sheet. I love it. Sounds still working? God frickin' damn it. 40 runes? Nah, that's frickin' cheap money. That's chump change. Frickin' Chase chump change, dude. Give my 0 back each. Not just because of that. I missed Dumb Beach. I'm freaking toxic. Alright. Alright, there's no way I'm sitting here for 2 hours fighting your dumbass. No way I'm sitting here for this long fighting this guy. That's the wrong button. Go for 2. Oh, I forgot that was an attack. Telling the guy who's farming millions shooting a bird. I kind of forgot she does that. Kill the bot horse. Yeah. Bigo, how many more freaking bosses do I have to fight for this freaking dumb beach? What's this shortcut? Like that, see? You dumb beach. You gonna watch my episode now? Collect, dude, get that sheet. Hell yeah. You feel me? Have fun watching your sheet. Every attack is a double. When am I supposed to hit you? I don't have time to do any attack by the time you do your sheet. Fuck, I'm supposed to kill your ass. I'm supposed to wait until you're done with your combos? How the frick did I dodge that? What the fuck? I don't know how to do damage without getting hit. I mean, that would have been nice. Oh god, Tomahawk, I got away with that. Okay. two now. How the frick did I dodge the other one? I guess we're just doing one hit per cycle. That's not. That's down in there. No, shut up. Oh, that's okay. Going for two? Easy money. What is that one? Oh, what is that one? Oh, now you got frickin' more? Well, you have two phases? I knew that. Of course, do more damage now too. I love that. Okay. Okay, I should have went for a hair right there. Okay, I love that. Alright. Can I maybe attack you if you don't mind? That's gonna hurt. Holy shit. Okay. Oh, come on, my guy. Oh, I was... Okay. I don't think I would have made that fight anyways. Okay. Yeah, I don't think you did that last time. I think I'm being lied to. Okay. I think we're just, you know, maybe gotta play it slower. We're going a little too quick, I guess. I don't know. Shortcut. Shortcut. Yeah, big ol'. I don't know. I don't know, Chief. This if this is a barrier between Milena. Aw. The one I got hit right there. That was a good trade. Don't know when to attack her. She does so much sheep. The attack is like... That's definitely a good attack. Okay, maybe not really much of a good trade, but it's okay, I guess. I'm going for a chance here. Damn it. Watch out for the back kick. Okay. Oh, I could have got a hit in there. That's, you know what, it's fine. How did that hit me? What? Oh, that was freaking risky. There would be no freaking help whatsoever. Whoa! Okay. Oh, I forgot it's a freaking triple or quad. I don't know how I keep forgetting these things. Oh, I forgot to dodge right there. Okay, I mean, if I was a little quicker, that would have been a lot more worth. Oh, that was nice. Alright. Okay, wasn't there more to that? I just missed the opportunity for so much damage. Oh. I like that. Okay. I know I was going to negate your freaking... What's it called? Damn it. Oh, yep. One time I freaking heal. Uh-huh. Go for heal and dodge right away. Oh. Go heal again, frick it. Quick. Stab to stab. More stab. Dip away. No shot that had the frickin' damage for that. Okay. I mean, that was good. I kind of scuffed that. We could have won that. Haha. Do we call a mimic hotline? No, frick them hotline. Alright, that was good. We're learning. This is the learning phase. This is the learning phase. I scuffed that fight so freaking hard. I wasn't even looking at the freaking health. I probably would have scuffed it even more if I looked at the health though. Alright, now we got the rhythm down. Watch this. Damn it, that was not worth it. Damn, that was not worth it. That's, oh my god, that was in the back. Ah, damn it. Ow. Alright, not a really good start here. He's gonna kick. Oh, frick, I'm coming from some frickin' damage. Like that shit. Oh crap, wrong time. Frickin' heal, just wasted the potion. Ow. Oh, that was not worth the greed. Alright. Not even worth the greed. Huh? Huh? Fuck, I could've got greedy right there. I might have won if I got greedy, but I won't chance it. Wow, what are the chances you do that attack? Ha! Ha ha, okay. No. Ha ha. Ha, okay. 4 portions left. I was better than last time. What's the frickin' RNG? You do that attack twice? Or not twice, after that? Frickin' punk. If she would have rushed towards me and would have got frickin' 2 wheels off you, it would have been easy frickin' money. What the frick did you have to get? Stupid ass attack. This is the one. There's no chance I get 2 good ass runs, then this one is just absolutely garbage. Ow. Oh, that's a double. Haha. Haha. Okay. Oh, okay, that was, I don't know how to dodge that. Oh, wowzers, bonkers Batman. Holy bonkers Batman. Oh, we know how to dodge that. Oh, you frickin' punkers. What am I gonna frickin' hit him, you stupid ass? Wow. Oh, wowzers, Batman. Alright, I don't quite know if that was worth it. Let's just freaking walk right into that nuke. Oh. Seems like a fantastic idea. Okay. There's no shot we're here for this long. There's no shot. We came twice. Came close twice. There's no freaking shots. Bagel, I hope we didn't see the last 2 runs. You would have been very disappointed. I hope you were watching that. It's still not working? Alright, what the fuck? I love having problems, dude. It's great. It's like a highlight of my freaking stream. Fuck, I should have went for an attack. What the fuck is wrong? You're all around the place. How the fuck am I supposed to read that? I was really hoping to win that move. Good. Having issues is literally makes my streams my streams. Okay, what the fuck just happened? Hello? How did that hit me? What? This game's freaking rigged. I'm going for an attack. I should go for an attack again. What, you can do an attack when you're mid-attack of another attack? What, I press space? I press space? I'm gonna be honest, I don't know why it's not working. For once, I don't think I messed anything up. I actually have no idea why it's not working. Can you try again? Unless they changed my Oh, it's because they changed the website. Okay, well, you know what? I can actually fix this. Give me like freaking 2 minutes. I think my link timed out. I have to get a new one. Hold on. There was like a freaking gateway problem or something. Uno momento, por favor. Alright, streaming tools. No, it's not streaming tools. Oh, yes, it is actually. There's an overlay that's called. Oh no, it's not called an overlay. Wait. How do I actually forgot? Wait, where is it even at? Is this on? Where is this link coming from? What kind of freaking link is this? Oh, it's on a different website. Oh, I knew that. It's on this one right here. Here it is. Found it. Here we go. OBS. Not OBS. Oh wait, no, this is just the... Wait. What the fuck is this? What is this? I'm gonna be honest, dude. I don't know what the frick this is. Oh, here it is. Okay, I was about to say, what the frick? Alright, I got it. 1 second. Okay, that's definitely not the link. at all. There you go. Alright, let's try it again. Emotional damage. No, let's do the You Got Mail one. Alright, still doesn't work. That's okay. Alright. This is, I like that. I like when stuff breaks. Makes things fun, right? I probably shouldn't worry about this until, you know. I probably should not worry about this. Uh, uh, okay. I don't know. I don't want to spend the whole. Oh. Did, oh, did it work? Okay. I don't want to spend all the stream working on it. I heard it first, like a millisecond, but then it freaking went out. I guess we're not doing sound alerts. Sorry, Briggle. I haven't touched anything involving that since frickin' I don't even know. Whenever I made the last one, which was a while ago, so I don't know how it broke, but you know me, things break very easily. And I feel like the reason is because I use two computers and it kind of fooks everything up. But I guess I just gotta fucking deal with that shit. I thought I had to do with my like authentication or something, but I do not think it was it. Oh, I was risky. That was for extra luck. I don't know when to attack you. Like 7,000 freaking sheets a second. That's the wrong button. I did not mean to go forward. I meant to freaking go back. Oops. Okay. That's fine. That's cool. It's cool. Everything's fine. It's fine. That's the wrong way. Alright, here we go. This is the one. Here we go. I'm not messing around anymore. No more distractions. I'm not going for a hit here because it's dumb. Are you going for a double? The one time I expect you to go for a double, you freaking don't. What the hell? What? I got the best luck, I swear. I thought that was the fast one. Why don't you do the attacks I want you to do? I hate you. I should. I don't know why I went for 3. No, that was my fault. I blamed myself. For once in my streams, I don't blame the game. That was 100% me. I freaking suck. I can't believe this sheet's taking me this long. I cannot believe this is taking me this long. I've gotten close to killing this fat beach 2 times. I mean, she's not fat, but... How long did it take me on the ghost version? Do you remember? Why can't you be a little slower? Oh no, I can get hit by that. Oh, wow. Alright. I'm definitely one-shot territory. Right about now. Definitely should die right there. Definitely should have died. Wow. Oh, I was so hoping I'd get that blue up there. Holy crap. Oh, there's 3. Oh, that freaking heal saved my sheet. Holy shit. Wow. One heal, one heal, one heal, one heal. Woo! 2 heals. Woo! Woo! Holy shit, Batman. Fuck you. Beach. Jesus fucking shit, that's incredible. Why did that take me so long? Oh, now I get her frickin' what's it called? Why did that take me so long? Fuck. Son of a bitch. Alright. Alright, let me check some before we continue. Alright, which one's that to the right? Let me check some sheet. What do I need for the next mimic upgrade, even though I don't know if I'm ever using it right now, but we can check. Where's this freaking beach at again, right?
I see.
Oh, I need freaking 7s? Yeah, we ain't doing that. I have 9s, I think. Alright, what I say I was doing endurance? Oh, there's no shot I'm missing 100 freaking souls right now. Okay, well, this is gonna give me a lot more than 100, but whatever. Alright, this is good. We get 2 more. Dude, Nick build is the best build. Look at that sheet. 50, 40, 55, 20. That's freaking beautiful, my guy. What the fuck are you talking about? God, look at how much more sheet there is here, bro. There's still so much more sheet. What the fuck? Alright, what the fuck am I doing now? I'm going this way. Alright. Oh, that looks like fun. Let's go over there. That place is big? Oh, God. I'm not gonna lie, I almost jumped off. I just really felt like doing it. Oh. Okay, confirm we can't do that. I kind of thought I can strafe out a little bit, and then do these lead to the same thing? What's the point of having that? Oh, this goes down. That's why. Ha. Oh, this goes down. Oh, this goes down a lot. Oh. Oh, this goes. Oh. Oh. Okay. Do I want to be down here first, or should I go up there? Okay, this is definitely progress. All right. I kind of feel like I should have went up there first. Oh, look, Grace. Oh, look, whoever the fuck that is. Is it a freaking what's his face? Wait, does that guy have 7 arms? Oh, never mind. I'm fucking tripping. Sir, do you mind if I just go past real quick? Do I have to fight you? Yeah, well, let's just see. Okay, let's just fight you a little bit. See what's going on here. Ah! Get that bleed. Okay, I'm not gonna bleed. Oh my, I dodged that sheet. Beach. Oh, well, that's kind of a cool little stance. I like your sheets there. Wow, that's kind of a cool move. Do you mind if I have that? That's kind of cool. Oh, you mind if I go real quick? No, I'm going for 2. Okay. Can I have your sheet from that? You get some freaking sick ass sheets. Alright. Okay. I messed up on that freaking chest. I really want to go back. Okay, let's just see how much health they have. Are these all the same? I mean, these guys are. Just freaking kills your own homie. Okay, I mean, to be fair, I lost a lot of souls. I feel like maybe I deserve this. Stupid ass freaking shield. And the freaking ghost thing. Okay, or freaking gold ruin. I like that too. Okay, so far this is pretty chill. Remember our goal is only killing enemies 1 time? Oh, alright, see you later. That's gonna freaking hurt. Oh, that's gonna freaking hurt. Alright. I don't know if it was worth killing you. Back up, beach. I'm freaking die. Time to die. Alright. See there, nerd. Back a little bit. Backtracking. Frickin' kill him. Hey, Wiz, thanks for the follow, my guy. This stream where we die a lot. Oh. Ow. I'm taking it. Oh, okay. Fuck, I'm already up to 36,000 already. Fuck, I'm going fist first. Oh. I thought you were a special guy. You were indeed not a special guy. Hey, what's up, Wiz? Welcome to the stream, man. Fair warning, I fucking suck at this game. If you're looking for good gameplay, you... Sadly came to the wrong stream. Oh, that guy looks fun. All this crap was freaking useless to me. God damn, this is the place to farm some freaking souls, bro. This is freaking cracked, dude. 2,000 per? Oh, I think I made someone angry. I think I made someone angry. I made someone angry. Oh, hey, how's it going? Frick your shield. Okay, he is not very nice. That, okay, we should probably not go on that. What is this? I guarantee I have a freaking whatever amount this is. I'm freaking using the sheet. Alright, give me something I'm gonna use. I'm probably not gonna use this. I'm not gonna use that. Thanks though. Alright. Oh hey, what's up, Wiz? How's it going, man? How's your day going? Are you a big Dark Souls fan? Or I guess Elden Ring fan? Yeah. Crack your shield, thank you. Wait, that guy looks like fun. Oh, it's these guys again. I'm not fighting these guys again. I'm not fighting these guys again. Fuck that shit. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest. I fat fingered a little bit there and panicked because I thought that was an enemy right there. I was looking and came across stream. Maybe I can help you with some Twitch custom graphics and more with Discord. I can send for that. So I've had a couple people ask me this. I don't know if they're bots. I feel like they're not, but maybe they are. Just in case you're not a bot, I'll take a pass, my guy. Thanks for the offer, though. If you are a bot, then rest in peace. I got a feeling that you're probably not, though. You had this person who's doing multiple times with different usernames. Yeah, but how the frick am I supposed to know without, like, you know? Look, you gotta give everybody a chance. Alright. The one time I assume they are a bot and I freaking roast them, then they're like, oh, I'm a real person. I'm like, oh, shoot, my bad, you know? Ah! Fuck you, Beach. Oh, thanks. I have no idea if this is a good idea or not. I feel like I'm getting a secret. That was the best secret I've ever gotten. Okay, I see what you meant by this place is fucking large. Jesus fucking, what the fuck is that? Okay, what's my objective? Am I just going in there? You want to go through there? Oh, okay. Good timing. You're gonna see the absolute best speedrunner you've ever seen. Watch this. Quick roll. Bop. Boop. Alright. Okay, watch this. We're gonna dodge all these arrows. There's no way of dodging that. Alright, watch this. I'm gonna time it. I'm gonna time it. I'm gonna time it. Ah! Okay. Go a little bit. Heal up. 3, 2, 1. Ah! Like that sheep. Alright. Ah! I think I've watched it before. Frickin' beach. I'm frickin'. Fuck out of here. Alright, we're just gonna continue this way. We're just gonna continue to go this way. I'm gonna go up here. I'm gonna go up here. Okay, we're gonna go this way now. Whoa. Oh, now this is freaking cool. Do I want to go over there first? Wait, do I want to go back and go that way first? This is fucking sick. Just keep progressing. Well, I mean, is this progress? Yo, this is fucking sick. Is there anything up here? Do whatever you want. Okay. Well, if you say that, then I'm fucking going back because I don't know what the frick's over there. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of surprised I didn't die right there. Oh, dude. Look at that. I'm gonna get attacked by a spider. I'm gonna get attacked by a spider. Oh, it wasn't even a freaking scarlet tier? Or sacred tier? What the frick is sheet's called? Frick. Waste my goddamn time. Okay, is this a stupid ass scarlet rot freaking dumb sheet? Oh my god. Can I still use my sheet in here? I can't freaking use my sheet! Okay, if I remember correctly, this guy freaking sucks. A lot! That sucks a lot. Here's what's happening. We're freaking dipping in the thing, and we're freaking dipping in the thing. We're dipping and getting that item, and we're freaking running for our life. That's the plan here. I'm also really surprised I got to that freaking section. I feel like I definitely should have died, but you know, apparently I'm really good at the game, and yeah. Alright, watch this. We're gonna do this while we're freaking rotted. Oh, we are slow. Oh, we are very slow. I wasn't expecting this much. Oh, we are heavy. Oh, wow, we are slow. Oh, right. So maybe that was not worth it. Did that make me fat roll last time? I feel like I didn't. I feel like I got scammed. Can I get my sheet back? I get my sheet back. Do I really care about it? Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna bait him out, and then we're gonna get my sheet back. That's a good tough attack for me. Okay, I just think that running is not worth it. Okay, it's the same shit. Either way we're fruits. Alright, maybe it's not worth it at all. Oh, I mean, technically, if I die a couple more times, I can probably keep it. But we're bound to lose it anyways, right? I mean, we can get that back pretty easily, but... So if we just get this sheet, you know what I'm saying? How does someone play fat rolling you? That's like damn near impossible. Okay, if we just keep rolling, we'll die over here and then we'll be good. Okay, or I can just survive. Alright. How the fuck are we gonna survive getting shot in the face while going across this sheet? Okay, I definitely feel like this is faster. Is it even worth coming up here? What the fuck are those things? Okay, fuck it, we're just gonna keep rolling. Ha, get it. Rolling. Ha! Because we're rolling. I mean, that wasn't that bad, I guess. Oh, okay, prefer to not frickin' fall down, please. And like, if you frickin' fall, I'm gonna start crying. Okay, let's just take a little frickin' chill pill, alright? No need to get so frickin' crazy up on this beach. I'm not gonna lie, that was a frickin' grace, dude. Okay, well, I kinda need one, because I'm frickin' end up dying from this dumb sheet. Is there frickin' grace down here? Hello? Oh, there's. Ha. Okay. Alright, I found the progress. Yeah, I feel like we're doing pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like we're doing pretty good. And this makes me seem like there's gonna be a boss right here. Oh my god, the light! It burns! Okay. This place is pretty freaking cool. Wait, do you actually want to go up that? Oh! Oh! Ah! I saw that, I saw that, I saw that. Totally saw that. I'm gonna take the freaking wrong turn, I know it. Ooh, do we go up there first? Fuck, we're going up there first. Alright, turns out I can't go up. Never mind, I can't go up there. Best believe I'm getting this freaking sheet. What the fuck is up here? Alright, so one way ticket, wherever the frick is down here. And you best believe I'm going for that sheet. Oh, fuck, just go for it, man. Fuck it, just go for it. Open that sheet, open that sheet. Get that sheet, get that sheet, get that sheet. Oh, sick, I'm not gonna use that. Freaking love that sheet. Oh, what's up, homie? How's it going? Oh my. Can I go for a double right here? No, I don't need a double. I'm pro. Okay, we're good, we're good, we're good, we're good, we're good. Okay, let's just analyze real quick, analyze real quick. Okay, we're going over here. Okay, that's probably, okay, we're going over here, we're going over here. Ow, 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 ow. Okay, this is the right way to go, this is the right way to go. Oh, this is the thing, this is the thing. I knew that, I knew that. We're going down again. I mean, I thought we were far down enough, but I guess not. Oh my god, made progress? What the frick is that? I see a freaking boss. Is that her? No? You're lying. Wait, where'd I come from again? I dropped down, right? Oh, that means that's a different thing. Okay, frick it. Let's go check what this one is. It's another pushover boss? Okay, let's go peep out what this freaking elevator goes to. Is this a freaking shortcut? God damn, that is freaking quick, dude. Freaking motion sickness on this beach. Okay, where the frick is this at? Just a shortcut? Okay. Oh! I didn't want my stuff anyways. I fat fingered. I blame my mechanical keyboard because I'm not used to it. Alright, so this is like a pushover boss. Let's see if you're capping with me. I feel like you are. I feel like this is not a pushover boss. Cutscene is probably not a good sign. This is I feel like this is not a pushover boss. I mean, would a pushover boss be? Oh, what do you know? It's a girl. I wonder who it is. Oh wait, is it a girl? Definitely. Okay, it's a girl. Ma'am, you don't have any freaking arms or arm. Oh, that's some pretty freaking cool physics. Look at that. She goes over her hand. She. Oh boy. How are you still alive with no arm?
I dreamt for so long. My flesh was dull gold, and my blood rotted.
Fucking badass. Just attach that
Corpse
sheet?
after corpse left in my wake
What the frick?
as I awaited his return.
Okay. So I'm trying to do it first try.
Heed my words. I am Melania, Blade of Mikola.
Okay. Watch this sheet.
And I have never known defeat.
Oh, you ain't never met me, motherfucker. Watch this sheet, you fucking beat. Oh, sheet. Okay. Okay, let's just take it. Oh, okay. Let's just take a little second to try to understand what the for fun we're gonna be on here for a while. Okay. Right, let me see how much damage I do. Fat beach. Okay, I'm kind of nervous. Oh, just doing how much health. Oh, you freaking hurt. Oh, shit. Oh, you freaking hurt. Alright. Okay, okay. That's fair. Okay, this is just a learning phase. Okay. Jesus Christ. Go. Oh, get out of here. Oh, she's in. Oh, my. Oh. Okay, I'm learning. Okay. Alright. What you got? Ah! Okay, how many attacks do you do? I've already used 4 potions already, and I'm not even... Wait, she heals? No shot her attack sealer. I swear to God for attack sealer. Oh my God, her attack sealer. There's no freaking way. Oh, haha. Alright. Oh, ha ha ha. Oh, okay. Note to self, don't heal when you close to her. Haha. God, you do. Okay, I don't even know when to attack you. I don't want to know how much damage that does. I'm gonna take a wild guess you probably don't stagger. Oh, that's a 4 attack. Oh boy. Oh, okay. Oh boy. Alright. Oh boy. Alrighty. So like alright. I don't really know how to go about this. She has kind of low HP though. What are you talking about? She probably has 2 faces, man. God, dude, her attacks are so fucking quick, dude. How the fuck are you supposed to read that shit? Oh my. Oh. Okay. Oh. Aha. Hi, I'm Elena. Shut the fuck up. I'm gonna hear that a lot. Probably like freaking 90 times. I think she deserves double HP. Alright, how about this? Let's actually think here, right? Let's use some of our sheet. So, what does she use? Let me see, boost physical damage. Okay, boom, right there. Easy money. I just got that sheet too. Okay, what else can we use? Raise the toddy. Fuck that sheet. Give me some motherfucking, okay, never mind. You're gonna hear that a lot. Alright, we need everything involving not taking damage. Okay, so I don't think we're gonna be charging or freaking guarding. Probably not gonna do that. I don't think she does. Does she do any holy in she? No, she doesn't. Increases defense and HP with a max. Okay, so we don't really have much going on here that's gonna help us out. Alright. Ha 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 ha. Alright, let's see here. What can we do in here? Okay, charge attack, no fuck about that. Poise, stand the recovery, stamina. Negates damage. Ooh. Wait, is that all damage? Is this all resistance pretty much? Am I reading that wrong? I feel like I'm reading that wrong. Am I reading that wrong? Resistance is what's oh, we don't need that sheet anymore. Get that shit out of here. Just dodge, bro? No, we gotta think about this, right? We gotta make this a non 20-hour thing here. Okay, fuck XP. We don't need that shit, right? Wait, eliminates all FP consumption. When I get that, that's freaking OP as shit. Alright, let's do straight up stamina. Frick the health. Maybe kill her next try. Alright, watch this. Maybe consumption is alright. That's pretty freaking OP, dude, for a mage. I make mages giga. Yeah, dude, I freaking make mages hell OP, dude. How long does that last for? Like a couple minutes? I'm using this sheet right away. Fuck that sheet. I got a little freaking bubble my sheet. Oh, it's just one attack. Oh, hey, yeah. Okay, so pretty much you're telling me we have to do this whole fight without taking a fucking single point of damage. Is what you're telling me now. Literally, if I go for an attack and I get hit while doing it, it's fucking pointless. What the fuck? Oh, what do you know? Watch this. What do you know? She healed up. Haha. Oh god, I'm scared of that attack. I don't know what the fuck it does. Oh, that's that. Oh, ha. Ha. Oh wait, I'm thinking FP is mana. My bad. Wow, I'm fucking slow. Took me a second to realize what the fuck I was just thinking right now. If you're gonna try to fight naked, actually, I wonder how much you fucking one shot. Maybe this is a good time. Maybe change your helmet out. Maybe we need that extra freaking what's it called? Dude, it's like whoa. Ha, what do you know, full health? Haha. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how to dodge her sheet. She has like 7 attacks in one. Why do you heal after every attack? Shut up. Are we like full on? Oh boy. Are we full on only fighting this beach till we kill her now? Or are we doing another sheet too? It's this boss in front. Wait, that's all we have left? Wait, we're already that close? I thought we had way more shit to do. Wait, what? Oh, I actually staggered her. Haha. Haha. Yeah. Oh, I don't like that attack. Oh yeah. There's no way she has one phase. Gets slapped. Haha. She's getting more aggressive. Okay. Oh. Yeah, yeah. No. Okay. Get off. Okay. Ah, what do you know? She's full health. Haha. You missed like 50% of the game. Well, you gotta realize, my guy, I'm mainly going off what you're telling me to do. Like, I don't know what's worth exploring and what's not. Don't blame me. I mean, you're the one who carried me throughout the whole game. I kind of have to. Yeah, 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 God, yeah, ah, no. I'll go for it. Go. Okay, freaking. I don't need 2 heals. I need 2 heals. Still got the optional dragon boss left. Oh, frick. I don't even want to talk about that beach. Actually, I can probably kill that beach now. I have experience. Alright, so what's like the last boss before ending is just gonna be the final boss, right? Or are we doing the final boss, then some other optional sheet, and then we're... Why couldn't you just... Ow! You freaking needed my... Ow! Okay. That's new. Yeah! Ow! Haha, full health. Yeah! Shit. Oh god. Okay. No, we can't leave here, bro. We no chicken. Oh, there's a few fancy bosses you missed, but I don't know. I'll have to get there because you've never been to those places. It's a whole underground area that you completely missed. Jesus Christ, what the fuck? Okay, I kind of like my... Okay. I kind of like my sectors. Pretty nice. No! Go for an attack here. Go! Yeah. Ah! Play it slow. Play it slow. I forgot the best way to get there next stream, I guess. So we got shit to do for my boss. And it's gonna keep you guys. Haha. Just bait it out. Is there any point of even continuing this fight? Because, like, I don't know when to attack you. I'm going for an attack here. Beach. I don't know when to attack him, okay? Yeah! Yeah! I didn't get one single hit off that! Alright. Love that. Watch this. Whoa! Pick him out. Yeah! Go. You know what? That's right. Okay, I was mid-animation of healing. I wasn't fair. I couldn't dodge that. Watch this. Whoa! Yeah! Oh, what do you wish this for again? Oh! Okay. So you're telling me I just... what? Put like what? Let's see here. 5, 6, 7, 8 potions, and I didn't do a single point of damage because she fucking healed it all. All right. Okay. I don't know if it's smart to be next to her because she's freaking quick as fucking shit. Yeah. Sometimes I don't know when the freaking ow. Ah. Freaking, maybe we just got more aggressive. You know what? Fuck this dumb bitch. I'm being more aggressive. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Double heal, double heal, double heal. Yeah. Wow. 1, 2. 1, 2. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Ah. That didn't work out too well. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh, is that always staggered? Yeah, we gotta test something. Shit. Let me test them real quick. Let me test them real quick. Let me test them real quick. Ah! Okay, I don't know if that really. Ooh, yeah, that's promising. I got aggressive. Fuck. Oh, shit. Alright. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Fuck it. Drink potion or no? That didn't give me much fucking stuff. Yeah, yeah! Yeah. Okay. Like that sheet, like that sheet. Go for it again. Easy dodge. I'm just gonna say I like that attack because I do some. Yeah, yeah! Just, we can't get hit, that's just the goal here. Fuck, I can't heal, go, go, go. Oh, okay. Fuck. I didn't dodge that? I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm dead. If you go for the thing, I'm dead. No shot that missed. But I have made no fucking progress. Oh, that was. Alright, so far we're getting 1 minute per run. That's pretty solid. I like that. I like that. I remember you specifically told me no matter what, I'm not allowed to use a freaking. Why doesn't every one of my combos? Oh, no shot that didn't hit you right there? I think I'm no. You know what I meant. You know what I meant. I mean, Mimic would fucking clap really easily. I dodged that on my screen. Every one of my combos started. Oh, that should have. Oh, that's something. That's something.
Shade of Nicola.
How does her healing work? I mean, I know how it works, but like, is there anything I can do to make this easier? Is there like a maybe like a frick? Sure, don't get it. This is pretty much a boss, so we're gonna have to go hitless if you want to make it easy. See, why did that one stagger you? But when I read, freaking she's in it before. Oh look, I hit her and she. Oh. Alright, so I'm freaking going for a heal. Yeah, every single time I'm going for it. Yeah, every single time. Every single time. Every single time. Okay. Yeah, dude, straight up, dude, we can't get hit. Every hit we take is just making this that much harder. Like all that, my whole sheet points. How come that is stacking you? How come that did? See, not that attack. It's just what? I dodged backwards, but I went forward. What? Okay, I like that attack a lot because I can actually hurt you. Okay, didn't have stamina for that. Nah. Okay. 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 Do you remember her name? I forgot. Why is it sometimes that she does it? I don't understand. If you can just do that attack, I would help you a lot. Oh, look at that sheet. Oh, look at her health already. Ha ha, look at come back, haha. Oh! Note to self, she takes bleed. Note to self, she takes bleed. Note to self, she has more attacks. The more you, alright. Ha. Alright. Note to self, she has more attacks. Is every portion a different move? There's no freaking way. I'm surprised she hasn't used that one yet. Wait, that's not HP based? Is that just random? Oh, oh! Sorry. HP. I don't know when you're going for the. Yeah, I don't know when you're going for an attack. Ow! Oh, I got dodged. Oh! I'm going for double. Okay. I don't know why I'm not saying that. I just feel like it was. Ah. Oh! There goes all the health I just got off. Oh, I didn't even stagger her. That goes all the health. She's healing by hitting my body when I'm dead. That's how good she is. Nice, HE base. At least that move. Okay. And how much from the bet she's gonna have more of those? Ha! Alright. I wonder if she have a cutscene for a freaking second. There's no shot she doesn't have a second phase. I'm about to get my freaking ass whooped when she gets half health. Oh look, all the damage it is. Oh, would you look at that? Oh, would you look at that? All the damage. Haha. Third phase is my favorite. Third phase? It'll probably take a while though. Third phase? Fuck you mean third phase? Oh, well, of course there's a third phase. Wait, actually, wait. What would you consider a phase? That's my question. Do you consider a cutscene a phase? Oh, you're fucking joking right now. Stupid ass fucking delayed. Yeah! I dodged that, but I get hit by some other bullshit. Third phase is a third health bar? Third health bar? What? She has 2? Oh, shot, she has freaking 2. How come that can stagger you? Oh, I thought you were going for a thing. Literally healing while I'm dead. That's unfair. You gotta have at least one boss with 3 HP bars. Do you remember Dark Souls 3? No. There was 3 health bars in 3? With Fried? Oh shit, you're right. I was like hell a long time ago. Actually, that was only a couple months. See how come there's a second right there? You know, it's freaking like, it was like it's oh look, all the damage it did. Haha. Oh look, she didn't suck it. No, haha. Oh, you like that sheet? Oh, wow, I thought you were gonna move a little closer. Okay, that is... That's attack of some fucking bullshit? You know what? Maybe I should not be dumb and maybe dodge into her. But how are you supposed to know what she does? This speed's too quick. I want a refund. How much does this game cost? Fuck, I'm switching to mage, dude. I probably have enough stuff at this point to make like a decently okay freaking mage. How come that didn't do anything? Oh, oh, just look at that. She freaking healed. Ha! Fuck this. Get your ass over here. Fly to my ass, speech. No, you can. She can hit me with hers, but I can't heal with mine? I was like a pixel on her frame right there. Oh look, she's full health. Ha! Son of a bitch. There has to be something else here I can do. I wouldn't say like an item I have because fuck items. Oh, not an item. I mean like a weapon that makes this like easy to shoot. There's no shot. This is actually the whole fight. God! Ah! That was really good. That was really good, Nick. Good job. I'm freaking proud of you. This is the grind now. Yeah! Ah! Fuck it, I'm feeling it. I should use that for others. Ah! Yeah! You close enough to use your sheet now? Fuck it, I'm going for it. Yeah, wisdom with. I mean, wisdom with. Bring him out. Bring him out. Yeah! Ah, I got that sheet. Oh, I didn't go for a freaking hit. What the frick is wrong? Oh, I'm fucking dumb. Grab that for good luck. I like this attack a lot. Oh, yeah. Uh-oh. 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 Okay. I'm panicking. Okay. I tried to go for a. I'm going for a heal. Okay. Frickin' I'm going for a double. Oh my god. Yeah. Ah. Yeah. I thought that was the other attack. That was stressful? I thought that was the slam attack. That was pretty good. Not gonna lie. Bro, there's no shot she has 3 freaking hits. I'm still tripping about that. I can't tell if we're freaking serious or not. You know how discouraging that is right now? Damn it. Okay, I'm not gonna talk about that. Watch this. Ah! Oh shit, that's cool. Okay. I love that. I'm going for a chance here. I did not work. I thought I was gonna stagger her. I repeat, I did not stagger her. Watch this. See, I thought she was going for that attack. Oh, would you look at that? She's freaking full health again. It's the wrong button. Okay. We're 60 for good luck. Okay, I don't have enough mouse sensitivity for that. Alright, beach. Oh, I forgot to show. Oh shoot! Before I end, I had to freaking do something. Dude, the attacks are so fucking quick, my guy. Jesus Christ! That one right there is like, what the poof? I couldn't. I couldn't stagger her. Ah, book. Okay. Dude, I can't believe how good that freaking run was. Bust this full HP. Oh, thanks, bro. Appreciate it. I need that reminder. Thanks. You know what? I feel like we deserve a potion upgrade because you said we're like 6 off. I feel like I deserve. I feel like I deserve a potion upgrade. I guess I felt like face thinking that for some reason.
Blade of Nicola.
I had plus 11. I feel like I deserve one. Actually, tell me. Okay, tell me this. Tell me this. The ones I'm missing, are they in an area that I've explored? Like all this sheet. I mean, there has to be at least 2 that I've in this whole map that I've missed. You gotta look around the world, bro. There's no shot I'm finding that with just freaking looking around the world. You only get them from those little post statue bombs, right? Why can't it stagger all the time? Why does that? Why can't I move during that?
Blade of Nicola.
I told you how the start of the game, how the buildings looked on the map. Oh shit! Wait a second. Are you talking about frickin'? I mean, the only thing I remembered is the frickin' map, to be honest. I remember this thing right here. This isn't it, is it? Did I ever? I think I asked you what this was for English. Okay, this is not it. So what are these then? Because there's a couple of these. This and the. Okay, this, the cave, and the map are the only 2 things I remember. Those just binoculars? Oh, yeah, the frickin' binoculars. Damn it. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, dude. The only thing I remember is the frickin' cave, the frickin' binoculars, and the map fragments. I forget everything else. To be fair, again, that was like 78 hours ago, so I mean, you know, my memory is not the best. So, can you frickin' like give me a hint on what a frickin' looks like real quick? Thanks. I guess you gotta do it like this, or we go through the entire game again and search every pixel. Well, no, all you gotta do is just tell me what it looks like on the map. Because technically, you told me before, I just forgot. So if you just show me a picture of what it looks like, I can do a quick little scam, dude. Boom. Easy money. I don't know if I'm actually gonna go get him, but... Wait, did you really? I feel like you're lying, dude. Did you actually tell me there's that? I feel like you're capping. I know you told me about the map and the caves. I could also not do that. I did tell you. How many times you told me? Just one time? Can't expect to remember that shit one freaking time. Well, I mean, I guess I remember the map. 50 times we forgot. Nah. 50 times. Son of a bitch. Why is it every time I go for a heal, you just hit me? Every single fucking time? Watch, she's gonna go for a stab here. Huh, yeah! Oh, shit! What the? That's the attack? What the fuck? That's how long that attack is? Oh, you're freaking capping right now. What the fuck? Watch this, watch this, watch this. There's no shot, that's how long the attack is. I'm going for it. Give me one. Give me one. No, no.
I am
Wow.
Blade of Nicola.
50 vigor coming in clutch. What the fuck? I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if that was just luck based on the bleed with the freaking jump. But I feel like that wasn't that quick of combos to activate that, so I feel like the jump has something to do with that. You know? Wait, when I jump, am I using? Wait, is that both of them? Oh, it is. Huh. Hey ah! Yeah! Yeah! Melena, but we only kill her while jumping. Yeah! Yeah! Ah! Ah! Nine! Nine! Yeah! What? Yeah, what? Yeah! She can parry? I mean, she can parry? Oh, wow! Ow! Oh! What do you know? She healed all the way to full. We're having a great time, Chase. We're having fantastic game of time. She. Fuck. I got a question. Chase is gonna do this in 5 minutes before we start next boss. Oh, she. Oops. Watch this. Yeah. Oh, no, I blame the game. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. Okay, watch this. Watch this. Oh. Oh. Ah. Oh. 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 Like that seat. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh. Seat. Oh. Fuck. That killed me. Oh, that didn't. To be honest, it doesn't look too complex. First phase, second is nasty from what I've watched on YouTube. Okay, hold on. What are we considering your phase here? That's my question. What's our running on? 6. He can't farm without me, that's shitty. Yeah! What the? I'm dead. Oh! Oh, that felt powerful. I like that a lot. Oh, you fucking guess. How can you pick? She could. Ow! Ah! Yeah, yeah! Yeah! Ha! What do you know she's full? Just kill me. End my life. What do you know she's full health? Ha! Bitch. Oh. That's a deck. Oh, that's different. Oh. Peach. I was like, Beach, get that sheet. Oh, well, you know, I'm back at where I started. Ha! Forgot, yo. This guy don't want to be as a wizard, but able to hook a twitch rookie up. Yeah! How come that didn't stagger you? Okay. Pick him out. Oh, we know my fast. Ha! Fuck that shit. Oh, I'm out of that too. Oh, no, no, no. Yeah! Ah! Yeah! Yeah, yeah! How do you dodge that? Oh, I'm out of heals. Oh. How are you supposed to dodge the whole attack? Oh, not again. Oh, no. How the fuck are you supposed to dodge that? Wait, Chase, you don't have the better TTV emotes extension? Come on, my guy. Oh my god. Check my panels. I have links for it. Bagel. Or Chase. Nick, good luck with your slash. Dude, how the fuck do you dodge that shit? Honestly, that's like gonna make it too easy. He has to figure it out. Well, even if you guys tell me, I'll fucking slash. Yeah! Yeah! Yo! 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 Oh! Oh, 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 oh. Yeah! Oh! Wait for it. Ow! Did I hit her all? I didn't. Haha. Yeah! Frick your attack, you fat bitch. I mean, not fat bitch. Yeah! Easy dodge, easy dodge. Yeah! Whoa! Oh god, yeah! I've also played this Dark Souls season, but only for a week. How long has the season even been out for? I don't even know. What? Wow, aren't the seasons 3 months each? Or some shit? Or is that a different game? Watch this potion right away. Watch this, watch this, watch this. Go for a fucking slap. Okay, if you wouldn't mind, can you do that attack more often? Because I really like it. Because I do damage, and it makes me feel like a badass. That's so quick. What is happening? I'm dead. No! Okay. I definitely think her grab is a lot closer when you're closer. Like the animation. No, okay, wait, that sounds dumb. She charges faster when you're closer. How about that? No, that still sounds dumb. Okay, I don't know what I'm saying. And you like one now, so I'm saying. Okay. Huh. Yeah. It's kind of a good trade, not really. I don't think that staggers you at all. I mean, I was about to say, oh look, I dodged half the attack. Haha. I didn't. I mean, I did, but. So all I gotta do is just not have room reactions. I wonder if it's hacks for this game to where like it detects an AI's move like attack before it even happens and like gets in the perfect position to dodge that shit. Fuck this is ready. 360. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Oh! Yeah. Okay, honestly, dude, jumping is kind of a freaking strat. Why'd I go for two? Good luck, charm. Strategy. Get knocked down and then just stay there on the ground. Never mind. Yeah, Chase. If you scroll down a little bit, there's a freaking panel that said something about emotes. If you look on that sheet, there should be hyperlinks to the links you need for the home sheet. How come that didn't stagger you? Press the freaking button. Oh, that was beautiful. Okay, I agree. That was really freaking bad. I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm dead. Yep. I panic because I want to heal, but every time I go for heal, I'm booped. You should also get the 7 TV emote. Wait, 7 TV? The frick is that? Bagel, am I allowed to see how much damage the mimic does? What the fuck? When did I press attack? That was like a roller coaster of emotions. How come that didn't stagger you? Oh, I feel like I was kind of got too far there. Did you restart your browser? Wait. Does every person have to enable the same ones I have? Go use Mimic? Okay, you know what? Let's just testing purposes. I want to see how much damage he does by himself. I'm not gonna attack her, I'm just curious. Oh, damn, nice attacking, right? Dude, and if I upgrade this Mimic, my guy, this sheet's so OP. Why are you letting her heal? Oh my god, my guy's dumb. Frickin' attack him? Oh, there you go. Okay, just keep attacking him. Don't let him hit you. Ah! Okay, well, I'm not gonna do this run because shoot. If people don't have Bird TV, they won't see any of the emotes. Is there better summon a Mimic for this? Wait, there is? Leg ring? You got more sheet? My guy, stop freaking getting your sheet without me, you freaking punk. What Mimic? I'm not gonna use them, but I'm kind of curious. Or, sorry, no, I keep thinking. No, what summon? Is it like early game summon or not? I really wish my staggers would activate, like no matter what she's doing. Him can freaking hear the plating of the freaking shoe. Don't worry, my man's over here typing on a rift. But you probably have it. Black knife Tish. Sounds familiar actually, I might have it. That'd be a frickin' no. Shit. What makes him so good for this? I mean, you say the word knife, so he probably attacks a sheetload. How do you not have it? I don't fucking know. Where do you find that? You just push HP debuff on people and their after strains. Oh shit! With perfect RNG, you can probably solo this boss. No frickin' shot. Wait, like fully maxed out? Holy shit! Fuck, that was bad timing, dude. Watch him go for heal. She's gonna charge him. That didn't hit her. That was probably like a pixel off of her ass. Like a 1 in a million, maybe. Well, now I wanted to see it. I'm not gonna lie. I want to max out my mimic too, just to have him maxed out. It's kind of fun just sitting back and watching people die. You know, 100% that should have freaking hit your ass. Okay. See, why didn't that do it? Damn it. Freaking bad timing. My shit's too freaking slow. So, now here we go. Here comes the combos where I can't heal. Oh, no, no. She already has almost full health already. Oh! I don't know what to do. I don't know how I don't know how to survive that. What the boot? $1.5 trillion health rift guard. They'll be here a while hidden enemy. My guy, stop fucking farming without me. That's not fair. You're getting your sheep fucking before I do. I really gotta figure out how to dodge that. I can't tell when she's doing it. She's fucking too quick. Actually, you know what, Bagel? I feel like I deserve to know all the bell bearing locations for the frickin' the ghost sheet. I don't think I dodged it. It's only because I was far away. Ah, you punk bitch. Go for it. Every time, my guy, just let me fucking heal you, fucking punk. Look how good I was doing. Now you're almost at full health already. Which ones do you need from Mimic? I think I need 7, 8, 9. I gotta pay attention when she's gonna do her thing. Mimic needs 7. That's it. Okay, so okay. What if I just stand still? What if like she'll go around me? Which ones does Mimic need? Oh, yeah, I forgot. There's different types. It's the ghost. It's the ghost one. Ghost 7. Wait, they go up to 10? Oh, shit. Oh, no. It's the grave one. Oh, wait, no. It's the ghost. Oh. Yeah, it's the ghost. No. Wait, I'll give me a second. So if I just... Oh, then I get hit by that. I don't know why. I need to stop looking at my screen so much. Oh, that was kind of a combo.
What is necessary?
Oh, I'm dead. Stand still. Oh. Why no? Find the graveyard of Alfiola. Personality from the tree roots. From the tree root grids, go back up the elevator, go straight to the exit church, and take the left down. Oh, good God! The item will be next to a grave, surrounded by more enemies. That sounds confusing as shit. Okay, hold on. Before we do that, which one is it? It's whatever I don't have a lot of. Yeah, I think it's. I'm pretty sure it's Ghost. What's the difference between re-owned and frickin' Ashes? Go to the afterwards. No, look. Calm down. I got this. Okay, we're going. Go back up the elevator. Okay, back up the elevator. What the frick's the elevator? Hot. Just kidding. It's right here. And what are the chances of me talking about this and being at the exact area? Go straight to exit the church, then take a left down the slope. Go straight to exit the church, left down the slope. Left down the slope, left down the slope. Slope right here. Take a left in the slope filled with lesser and rot. This item will be next to a grave surrounded by enemies. Grave surrounded by enemies. Grave surrounded by enemies. Oh! I see it! Ah! Let me cop that sheet. Thanks, my guy. Oh, that's freaking easy. Ow! Wow, that's freaking really easy. Wait. Oh, yeah. Each one gives 3, huh? I'm not gonna lie to you. I want to max it out and then have him fight. Malena and see how much damage it does. Just, I'm freaking curious. I'm curious here. Cause this guy's freaking kicking ass the whole game and he's not even freaking maxed out. He's what, +6 right now? Yeah, dude. 4 more? Good God, he's gonna freaking flomp these nerds. Oh, yeah. Should try the other summon, see how it performs. The dark one? Or the blade one? I don't have that shit, gotta get it. Also, this is pretty cheap. Oh wait, it takes 3, huh? Wait, does it take 1 each? Or 3?
I see.
Oh wait, they all just take 1? Oh, it was right, it was a ghost. What am I doing? What am I doing? Oh! Oh yeah. How that? Let's just use one of these. This will give me enough for probably all this. Okay, maybe not. At the end of this is quest line, you go up the mountain with all the dragons. There was a boss in the circle that boss gives it, but you can't summon it anyways unless you get that 137 HP. Oh yeah. Oh shoot, wait, is that gonna go up when I upgrade this beach? Wait, does the FP cost go up with the amount of pluses it has? Oh, it doesn't. So. Wait. Don't I already have any? Yeah, we're gonna do some double walking here. Oh yeah, the mimic costs HP. Yeah, I forgot. Okay, I don't have it yet. I kind of thought I did. Alright, so it costs 10k for that, and then it's another 10k for that. Easy money. Keep freaking pressing the button. Okay, we're using all our sheets here, and we have it for a freaking reason. Might as well just freaking use it. I know I could go sell these to be quicker, but anybody got time for all that? Alright, 12k, we can get that, and then it's probably gonna cost like 15k for that. Let's save our heroes and just use these ones. Haha! I think I just bought 2 9s. Whatever.
I see.
Boo! Aw, you beach. I think I'm still off. Oh shit, I'm sorry. To have 3 greats? God damn. I'm just gonna sit back and watch. I want to. That's +4 upgrades. Actually, I don't know if I should spoil it for myself because it might. Oh, fuck it. That's for testing purposes. Whoop his ass. Probably cost. I'll whoop his frickin' ass, or her ass. Not in a weird way. Oh look, I'm going over here. I wonder what's gonna happen if a mimic goes behind. Oh. Damn, look at how much damage you can take. It's not even doing anything. I mean, seems to be working out pretty well. This guy is legit a mimic, dude. He's playing exactly like a... Bro, this guy's getting slapped. He's getting slapped. He's trying to walk to you? I know. Man was getting slapped. Okay, let's do it again. This time will be next year. He's playing through that game. Honestly, bro, you did. That's kind of dumb how they follow you even though they're getting attacked. Like, well, I got better AI than that. Come on. Come on. Alright, let's see what happens now. God, every attack by her is a stagger, dude. It fucking sucks, dude. Oh, he dodged that, but you don't dodge the other ones? Oh, okay, he's getting more aggressive. Oh, almost dodged it, okay. Yeah, this guy's freaking OP, dude. Damn! Oh, keep it. Oh, he's being aggressive. Oh, and now she's gonna heal. He's going for the unique special attack. Come on, get that bleed, my guy. Oh, it's... I mean, he got one bleed. He got one bleed. It's not too bad. Obviously, if I help, you know, she'll get slapped, so... There's no point in me actually dying because she's got this full health in place, but... That's the fact that I used him in that run, if I happen to kill her, which is very unlikely, I'd feel like it'd be dumb. You said how much? You said I cost how much again? How much do we even have? Probably not a lot. Where's that shit at? 82. Oh no, wait. Yeah, 82. How much you need? Like 147. I ain't getting that shit. I probably have items to boost it, but eh. Way to give me a chance. Alright. Blade of Mikama. Alright, here we go, here we go. Okay. Love that. Oh, okay. Oh, what? Okay, I'm getting used to that combo a little bit. She already healed? That's kind of dumb because now I'm on a freaking stamina. Damn it. Okay. You know, maybe I shouldn't assume that my attacks are gonna stagger. Then if I assume, I'm gonna be like, oh, okay, I'll just attack her once while she's mid-animation and it'll stagger her, right? Ha! Nope. See, now, that would have been cool. That would have been cool. But it was not. See, like, I feel like right there would have been good for a freaking stagger. And there too. What the? I didn't. What? Yeah, I wanted to dodge first. Oh! Go for do, go for do. Oh, it survived it. Oh, I thought she was doing it again. I was gonna start crying. Let me stand. Oh, shit. I am in dire need of some stamina right now. I am in dire need of stamina, my guy. What the frick? Oh, okay. Oh, that's the attack. Oh. Bro, can you just, like, not do that? What is my keyword? Can you just not do that? Alright, Brigo, you're killed this chick before. How the fuck do we dodge that, dude? Like, which direction do I fucking go in? This is like the roly-poly guy all over again. Okay, I gotta go combo watch this. Why didn't that what? That should have staggered her. Why didn't it stagger? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay, so note to self, don't shift tab while you die and you're in the loading menu or screen. Very much not a good idea. Pretty sure I just crashed my sheet. I crashed my sheet. Yeah, note to self, don't, oh, okay. Yeah, don't do that. Oh, I can leave a review. Huh. This game is so freaking good that I would spend 500 hours to complete it because it is so good, and Lania is the best boss I've ever seen, and I think that you should